In this week's Torah portion, Ki Tavo, we read of the very touching commandment known as Bikurim. It is when the first fruits would ripen, the Torah commands the Jewish farmer to make a mark around it, and then when it is harvested, he would bring it to Jerusalem and offer it as an offering to the Kohen. But what is poignant and touching about this particular commandment is the fascinating declaration and prayer that went alongside it. You see, every person who came to the temple, regardless of how many fruits they were bringing, whether it was just a couple or hundreds, would make the same declaration. They would begin the litany of the history, where the Torah details exactly what the person shall say. And he begins with the words that our ancestors many, many years ago were persecuted, and they went down to Egypt, but then they were saved by God, and with the Exodus they came through the desert, and God fortuitously brought us to this great and wonderful land flowing with milk and honey. And now he has blessed us with the bounty of this land, and he would present it and say, this is the fruit of the land, of the holy land of Israel that God had promised to our ancestors. And then he would say, please God, look down from your abode in heaven and bless your nation, the land of Israel, and the land you had given them, the land flowing with milk and honey. This happened again and again and again. And the Talmud describes the great fanfare and celebration that this commandment engendered. Entire towns would line the streets to welcome these people who were coming carrying these fruits. And the elder statesmen and the older Kohanim would solemnly stand there and listen to this declaration. It's interesting that every single person who came made the same exact speech to the Kohen standing in front of God in the temple. There was no originality. There was no room for ad-libbing or changing the text. Everybody said the same thing. And the Kohen would stand by and listen to the same speech again and again. And one wonders, what is the point of every year, same ceremony, same speech, and thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people coming and saying the same thing again and again? And the Kohanim and the members of the Sanhedrin, the Talmud says even the king of Israel would come and offer the Bikurim and silently stand there listening to the declaration offered by these farmers. There's a very powerful lesson that we can learn from this commandment, and that is that very often one wonders, what is my unique contribution to Judaism? You see, a farmer rightly could have thought, I have a small, tiny plot of land somewhere in Israel. It doesn't produce much, maybe a couple of pomegranates, a couple of figs, but there's somebody else that's coming with an entire wagon load. And my Bikurim, my mitzvah, does not equal to much. And yet, the Torah provides that each and every single person who came was treated the same way, the same celebration, the same pomp and circumstance, and makes the same prayer. Because in God's eyes, every person's contribution is precious and is equal. In our times, there is no temple. There is no Bikurim. What is the relevance? What is the meaning of this mitzvah? My friends, in just a short couple of weeks, we will be ushering in Rosh Hashanah, the high holidays, where many of us, whether literally or metaphysically, we are about to enter God's space, God's temple, God's synagogue. And all of us will have to face the question and ask ourselves, what is different about this year? What has happened in the past year and what's going to be different? Last year we said those words. The year before we held the machzor, we said the words, and we've been saying the same words for years. What is going to be different this year? And indeed, on a deeper level, one can ask, what does my individual prayer really matter in the great cosmic scheme of things? There are wonderful Jews all over the world, maybe who have better intention, who are praying with greater concentration and kavanah, What is my contribution? What is my few moments, my half an hour, my hour of coming to the synagogue on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? What does it really mean? What is my gift to God? My friends, the answer is clear in this week's Torah portion. God asks all of us to do the most we can with the gift that we were given. Someone who does more is great, but someone who gives what he can, because that is what he is capable to do, that is his bikurim. That is all that God asks us to do, what we have been blessed by him to give. And so every single one of us must realize and never question, what is my gift? What is my contribution? Even the Kohen who heard this declaration maybe 100 times that day, when the next person comes in and presents his small basket and makes the same declaration, for the Kohen, it's like hearing it for the first time all over again. Because every single Jew's prayer is unique and is special and is original. Just because somebody else says something similar or carries a similar basket does not invalidate that person's contribution. The fact that hundreds and thousands, millions of Jews will open up a prayer book, a machzor, and read the same words as you, doesn't take away from you having to say those same words and offering your gift, your bikurim. Because as our sages tell us, in place of the offerings of the temple, what do we have today? It is prayer. The words of our prayer are instead of the offerings that were brought in the time of the temple. And there's this beautiful teaching from our sages regarding the offerings, the karbanot. It says that one should know that both the offering of the rich and offering of the poor were all equal, as long as one concentrated and had intention of their hearts to the Father in heaven. It made no difference the amount, the special circumstance and expense that went into an offering. Every person, as long as you do what you are capable of doing, it is equal to the most lavish offering of the wealthiest person in the world. The same is true regarding prayer. We should never feel dejected. We should never wonder, what is my small prayer? What is my few moments in synagogue on the high holidays going to matter? When there are so many rabbis and Jews in Jerusalem at the Western Wall praying with such great fervor, and me, my little corner somewhere, reading a couple of pages, perhaps in English. But that is the mitzvah of bikurim, and that we stand there and we say those words with concentration, with intention. And when we do so, all the high priests, all the leaders, indeed the king of Israel, stands solemnly by and listens and nods and recognizes that the Jewish people are only complete when every single person feels that their individual contribution is important and is treated with the same reverence and same care as everyone else's. May God bless all of us, that we should be able to offer our own bikurim, our own first offerings to God speedily. And when we sit in our shul, in our seats, whether it's going to be at home or hopefully you can make it into synagogue at some point during the holidays or during our outdoor service, and feel that your voice is being heard, because it is being heard. And even if it's a short prayer, and even if it's in language other than what's printed in the machzor, rest assured that God is listening and God treats it with just as much care and love as he does with the deepest and most profound prayers of the holiest of Israel, when we offer it with 100% devotion and with all of our heart. Shabbat Shalom.